What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video, and in this video we're going to be continuing on with our macOS development with AppKit tutorial series. And in this particular tutorial we are going to be taking a look at a few things, but primarily we're going to be taking a look at the NSSecureTextField. Now, what is NSSecureTextField? Well, put simply, NSSecureTextField is a type of NS text field. In fact, it is it is a class that inherits from NS text field, right? And so pretty much we just have a NS text field that pretty much just has its text obfuscated. All right, so that's pretty much what an NS text field is. It's just a text field whose text is obfuscated. So you could, for example, use this for a security code field, a password field, that kind of thing. If there's a place where you need to enter sensitive information, such as a password or a security code, then this is your way to go. Excuse me, but we're not going to just cover NSSecureTextField in this video. We're also going to cover the layer property of many views, many kinds of views, including NSView, but there are some caveats to it that we need to discuss as well. So let's go ahead and start off by talking about how we can create our NSSecureTextField. So as it stands right now, the starter project for this video is relatively simple. We have two labels and two text fields. We have a username and password field, as well as a username and password label. These NS text fields have a placeholder string, which is a property on NS text field. So inside of the text fields, you'll see a kind of a grayed out sort of prompt, if you will, for what the text field should include. And if we run our app now, let's go into Xcode. If we run our app as it stands right now, you can see that we have both labels and we have our text fields. Now, the text fields are horizontally centered, and the password field is, in addition to being horizontally centered, it's also vertically centered. So the username field is 20 pixels or units above our password field, and the login button is 20 units or pixels below our password field. Right? So our user interface is symmetrical in that regard. And then to the left of our text fields, we have our labels for username and password. And so pretty much that's about it, really. It's a very basic interface, but a very practical one, because in some apps you might need to build a login screen, and this is as basic of a login screen as you can get. Now, if we go back and look at the code for this, let's kind of go over this. So, going from the top, we have our 4 objects. Inside of viewDidLoad, we're calling configure UI. And inside of configure UI, we're calling various methods, including configure fields, configure login button, configure constraints, add subviews, and you can kind of get the idea as to what the rest of these methods are doing. And then way down here at the bottom, we have our objc method here. And so all this is doing when we hit our login button is it's printing out the entry from our username and our password fields. That's all the login button is doing, because we're not going out and reaching for a REST API to actually log in to an account for something. This is just a demo, right? If this was a real app, you would actually go out and make a network request to an API and handle all of that. So let's go ahead and change our password field to an NSSecureTextField. So the text in the password field is obfuscated. Because if you look in the password field, we can enter whatever we want. Super secure password. And it's not obfuscated, right? There's nothing secret about it. Now, and the other thing too is that with an NS text field, we can copy and paste stuff to and from the field. However, an NSSecureTextField does not allow this. So in an NSSecureTextField, you cannot copy the text from it, and you cannot paste into it. So that's kind of a security thing, which can be helpful and a nuisance sometimes if you want the user to be able to paste stuff into the password field for whatever reason. You can't really do that. All right, so let's go back up to the top of our file, of our view controller, and find password field. Now, changing this to an NSSecureTextField is as easy as changing the type of object that we're instantiating. So instead of NSTextField, we say NSSecureTextField. There we go. We can save this and run our code. Go ahead and replace it, the current running version of the app. All right, so now here we are. We have our username label. We have username edit text, our password label, and then we have password secure edit text as VoiceOver announces it. This tells us that our changes worked. So we can type whatever we want in here. Right? And you can see that our entry is obfuscated by a bunch of bullets, right? A bunch of bullet characters, as you would expect from a password or secure text field. And then my VoiceOver also does not announce the characters of the field. All I hear is a click sound every time I type a character, which is precisely what is supposed to happen. All right, so when we hit, let's go ahead and enter something in here. In the username field, we'll say, this is an awesome username. 13579. All right. So let's now hit the login button. And when we go back into Xcode, we go to our console. We can safely ignore this error here. And so down at the very bottom of our console, we can see username. This is an awesome username. And then we have our password printed. All right. Now, of course, usually in a real-world app, in fact, all the time in a real-world app, you are not going to print, right? Okay, you're not going to print your password or security code or whatever string entered into a secure text field to the console. You're never going to do that in a real-world app. However, this is just a demo to show you how exactly we can use the NSSecureTextField, get the data from it, and do something with it, right? Because that is important. You do need to know how you can grab that data and how you can do something with it. And in this case, you just need the string value property to get the value entered into the password field, just like a normal NS text field. It's pretty simple, actually, to do that. And then if you need to send it off to a server to log the user into an account for something, you know how to get that data, and then you can put that into a network call and send that off, and then handle the response from the server after that, and you can all that kind of stuff. But that is more advanced topics than what we're covering today. Now that we're done talking about our secure field, there's another topic I wanted to talk to you about in this video, and that is layers. Now, the layer property of NSView is what's called a CALayer, or a core animation layer. Core animation did not exist until the iPhone project. So it didn't exist until 2007 onward. There's about. So macOS, for a very, very long time, didn't have core animation layer. Core animation didn't exist yet. So ever since, I believe it's ever since Leopard 10.5. Since 10.5, it did have it, because by that point, the iPhone was released, and core animation was a core fundamental part of the iPhone. And since Mountain Lion, macOS 10.8, Apple has encouraged you to use the core animation APIs in AppKit, such as the layer property and whatnot, though they aren't very commonly used even still, as much as Apple recommends that you use them. And so because of, and that's also in part due to how it's designed and implemented into macOS. It's not always a guarantee that at the moment you try to access a CA layer on your view that you're going to have it. That is why it's optional. If you look up the layer property of NSView in the documentation, you will see that layer is an optional CA layer. So to make sure that we absolutely have a layer if it's something we want to work with, to, for example, set the background color of a view, or set the border width and color of a view and stuff like that, which I'll show you here in a second. We have to call a Boolean property, right? We have to set a Boolean property to true, and this Boolean property is once layer. So this will tell AppKit, hey, I need a CA layer here, and so it will explicitly go and grab one for you before you use it. That way you know you always have one. So what are we going to do with a layer? Well, what we're going to do is we are going to apply a border to our NSTextField and NSSecureTextField to kind of liven up the user interface, make the text fields just slightly make them slightly more obvious. And if you want, you can apply one to the NS button as well, but we're not going to do that in this video. We're just going to do the text field to kind of give you a little bit of an idea of how this about how this works. All right, so let's go ahead and go to Configure Fields. So inside of our view controller, we want all right. So here we go. The first thing we need to do is we need to tell AppKit, or tell Coco, rather, because core animation is part of Coco. So we need to tell Coco, hey, we want a layer in these particular views. So we can do this by saying username field dot once layer and set that equal to true. And so now our field, our username field, will explicitly have a CA layer. The layer property will always have a value, though it will still be nil, or rather not nil, but it'll be optional. It'll have a value, but it will still be optional. Because again, without setting this particular property to true, you may or may not even have a CA layer in the first place. All right, then we can say password field once layer equals true, like that. All right, now let's apply a border to our fields. So this border is going to adapt to light and dark mode. We want to make sure that this is the same color as label text, and so that will adapt. But the thing about CALayer is that it's a layer further than NSColor, so or even the AppKit stuff. So core animation doesn't know about the AppKit data types. And so it does, however, know about core graphics data types. So we need to use what's called we need to convert that NSColor to what's called a CG color. And a CG color is easy to get from an NSColor because every NSColor has a CG color property, which is, of course, the type CG color. Precisely what we need. So, first off, let's set the color of our border. So we'll say username field dot layer dot border width. We'll set that equal to 4. Then we'll say username field dot layer dot border color. All right. And we'll set that equal to NSColor dot label color dot CG color. So label color is a color in AppKit through NSColor that adapts for light and dark mode. It's not black or white, it just adapts. So it'll be white in dark mode, black in light mode. All right. So that is our that's our border for our username field. However, now we can also we can copy this and change username field to password field. All right, so like that. All right. Now let's also see if we can find some kind, if you want to find some kind of border radius for it, you could, but we're going to leave that alone. We don't need to worry about that. All right, so we could save this. We can run it. And now, if we take a look at our text fields, they have a border around them, which is precisely what we wanted. And so the border is white because we're in dark mode. If you switch your if you change to your light theme, you'll see that they turn black. And so do the labels and all that stuff. Now you could set the background color of the layer for these text fields, and that would work. You could do that. There's all kinds of things you can do with CALayer. I highly recommend that you go and look at the documentation for CALayer just to kind of get an idea of all the different customizations that you can do with the layer property. But that pretty much does it for this video, guys. Thank you all so very much for watching. Make sure you leave a like, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends, and follow me on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. Thanks, guys.